How's it going, everybody? I am DeanoGTO, and today we're going to be taking a look at a subscriber replay sent in by War9 in the IS-7 on the DeanoGTO map. One thing I just want to quickly mention before we actually get into the game too much is this map. So I'm not sure if anybody else has had this experience, but when it comes to the south section of this map, does anyone else feel like the eastern flank has a significant advantage over the western flank? Because if you look over there, like, you can kind of see it there in the background. Like, there is this raised elevated section of ground back there with a bunch of trees and bushes over it. So the reason that's a problem is the other flank doesn't really have that, and essentially means that if the western flank tries to push towards the eastern flank, then they just get eviscerated by all the tank destroyers that just sit up where those bushes are. So pretty much the only way I've really found to win the south from the west is to sit there and wait for the eastern flank to get bored and push into you. So it's a really weird issue. And why is the personal mission thing still coming up? That was weird. Right, so we're in there, just got first shot into the object 430 and second shot straight into him as well there. So that object 430 just lost over half his health and he has done pretty much nothing so far. Jesus, like, I will say though, War9's luck with the IS-7's gun seems to be a lot better than mine ever was, because I don't know what it was about the IS-7's 130mm gun, but the way the gun handled just drove me nuts, because you'd be at point blank range, aiming at a weak point, and it would do that, but at point blank range. Like, it's just a gun, it was just the gun on this tank that really like kind of put me off of it. For the most part, I liked most of the other aspects of the tank. I liked the mobility, I liked the turret, but the gun was the factor that like, pretty much just put me off of it because I just couldn't deal with the just inconsistency of it. And just to give you context, the tier 10 Polish heavy tank has 0.38 accuracy with 8 degrees of gun depression. This thing has 6 degrees of gun depression with 0.4 accuracy. And this thing here is a 2.9 second aiming time, whereas the Polish tier 10 has a 3 second aiming time. So the Polish tier 10 has 0.1 worse aiming time and is actually more accurate. But well, War9 yet again getting a lot luckier than I ever was, and actually managed to hit and penetrate the WZ-111 5A cupola, which is something I was never really able to do whenever I was like facing off against those things, because I don't know if anybody else has this experience with WZs, especially the 5A tier 10, but most of my shots do that. Exactly what happened just there. Like, does anybody else notice that you just can't penetrate the 5A consistently and reliably? Because its armor just seems to be so random and hard to predict that it's impossible to know whether or not you're actually going to do damage or not. So I just find that vehicle like really annoying to actually fight against because of its just angling and the armor thicknesses and stuff like that. Like, War9's now just trying again and again just to see if it can actually hit the WZ-111 5A's weakness again, but he hasn't gotten lucky enough to do that again since the last shot that landed next to where he would have penned. So Sony SM then makes the move to like, drive across and head into the low ground to the north, which, well, whenever I was first watching this, I was thinking, oh god, the TVP 5051's like planning to assault here, and it's planning to like try and push forward and just wreck his team. And I was getting ready to see this 5051 pop up and just see him like eviscerate a couple of his teammates. But well, the Somia pushes forward, and WZ-120 pushes forward, but there's no sign of the TVP, which is a really odd thing to see, because that's a tier 10, you'd expect it to be leading the charge, but it's just not there. And the Scorpion's even pushing forward. All the tank destroyers are pushing forward, but the TVP's nowhere. And also, this WZ appears to have decided he doesn't want to be on Sudyanki anymore. So, War9 grants his wish and finishes him off. So, the Somi SM is still there. He's got a 5-shot autoloader with a 300 alpha gun, so he's going to have to be very aware of that, because, well, if he gets caught up with that, doesn't matter if you're a tier 10 or not. If you're sideways on from that gun, it will still do some significant damage. Plus that thing, I think, has like 9 or 10 degrees of gun depression, and that was a really nicely predicted shot there. That like just immediate like instinct reactions right there, getting that shot straight into that Scorpion G. So that Scorpion G is now sitting on around 600 health, so he could killed in like a single HE round. And then there's the WZ's armor, right? That moment there just sums up my experience shooting at these things. You're aiming at a weak point that you should pin, and then nope, armor just decides no. And he definitely hit the low front plate there, that's the thing. But the armor just decided no. And then the Scorpion G actually finished off his friendly M48 Patton. And now he's going to roll around the corner, gets another nice shot into the WZ. I think he's, like, I'm not sure if he was actually already firing premium rounds or not, but I think he may have fired the premium rounds after he bounced off the lower front plate randomly. And he's loaded a HE round up here to try and deal with this WZ. I think he may have actually winded up shooting the tracks there rather than the front plate. I might have to just watch that back, but that looked like the WZ kind of like moved just as he fired to show the tracks rather than the up front plate. But he managed to finish him off there with an AP round to the lower front plate, and that's the WZ dealt with. That's second last tier 10 dealt with, and the TVP hasn't been spotted still. So where is that guy at? Has he moved around the map? Well, he almost certainly hasn't, because we can see on the western side that the FE4005 and the Skoda T50 are moving up aggressively, and they haven't seen him. So where's this TVP? What's he been doing all this time? And he gets a nice shot in the M46, nice protective shot there. And the Object 430 has now been spotted. I wonder what spotted him. I guess it was the FE4005 that spotted that guy, but well, we just saw a shot there from the right hand side, and the only thing to assume there is that was a TVP. What has he been doing this entire time? He's in one of the most powerful tier 10 autoloaders in the game, and he's been sitting there for like over 5 minutes? Why? That just seems like such an odd choice. Like, that's such a powerful vehicle, and he just kind of squanders it for this match. And well, 19's just kind of sitting here. I think he's trying to decide like what exactly he wants to do. He sees the Conqueror moving forward, and he immediately angles towards him so that it kind of messes with his aim, and gets a big shot into him in return. And the Conqueror pulls forward to try and get a shot into War9, but the Object 252U finishes him off, and fires a shot into the Object 430, who appears to be AFK. And the Object 430, well, he definitely AFK at this point. Like, he hasn't moved, and he wasn't spotted for such a long time period. That, well, yeah, that was just a free easy kill there. And now War9's going to move forward to see where that TVP is, and unsurprisingly, he is, yeah, still there. Yeah, yet again, I don't know why he was there, because, well, even though he does about the same amount of damage as the rest of the tier 10s on his team, I don't know why he kind of squandered a vehicle that's so strong, like, by just like staying in the same place the entire game. So yeah, like, at least the WZ actually tried to do things over the course of that match, but that TVP really didn't. So yeah, I think it might be being a bit too harsh on that TVP, but I feel like that TVP really did lose that game for his team there. So by the end of that game, War9 ended up with about 8,000 damage done, over 3,300 damage blocked, and nearly 1,200 damage with his assistance. So that game was monstrous by any measurement. Like, that game was awesome. And the only moment which I think was potentially like a little bit of a misplay was when he aimed the shot towards the WZ-111-5A, and it was a HE round, and he aimed essentially to where the tracks were on the WZ. Now, if he had aimed a bit further to the right, that probably wouldn't have happened, or if he'd aimed at the turret, that wouldn't have happened. But the problem is, those both come with their own risks, given that it's the IS-7 gun. Like, if he'd aimed it further to the right on the hull, there's a chance the shot may have missed completely. And if he'd aimed at the turret, there's a chance the gun or the gun mantlet could have absorbed the shot. So both of those have their own distinct problems. But that moment, whenever the WZ-111-5A came forward to try and support the Somya SM and the Scorpion G, was probably the most important moment in that fight. Because if War9 had allowed the WZ to dictate the pace of combat, then I think the WZ could have had a decent chance of actually winning that fight. But because War9 essentially just pushed straight into him and didn't really worry about taking too much damage from the Scorpion G that was to his right, it effectively meant that the WZ couldn't control the way the combat was happening, and because he couldn't control that there, it meant that he just ended up taking far more damage than he initially expected whenever he came around the corner. So you pretty much just completely outplayed that WT, and there was really nothing he could do in order to win that fight after you pushed forward into him. Aside from getting just insanely lucky. Like, if every shot had bounced off the way that first lower front plate shot bounced off, then that would have just been just insane. But after that first bounce, you pretty much just nailed that fight on your own, pretty much. So, yeah. Thanks very much to War9 for sending that replay in. That's a pretty awesome IS-7 game to have featured on the channel as the first ever IS-7 game on this channel. And yeah, the last thing I really have to say is if you have any replays of your own you want to see featured on the channel, send them to me in an email to the replay email address in the description, and let me know what you guys think of this video in the comment section below. And hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.